Hi, I'm Jeff Goldberg, and you're watching me on Talkietive Tidbits. That's a question we get a lot, which is Indian acting. There's no such thing as Indian acting. The type of craft that we teach is what's called method acting. And method acting is all about emotion. And Indians have no shortage of emotions. And the whole idea is to portray them and perform them in the most truthful, honest, and touching way. And I don't think that that's necessarily the franchise of Americans or Frenchmen or Germans or Africans or Indians. Everybody feels, everybody loves, everybody cries, everybody has a variety of emotions. And our job as instructors is to help you tap into that, use that, channel that, and make it part of your performance. In 2013, when I was rehearsing a play that I was going to be staging at St. Andrew's College here in Mumbai. It was a rather big production, and I brought in some really interesting actors to do readings and, audition for the different parts. And interestingly, I brought in an actor who was fairly seasoned and quite experienced, and I asked him to do what we call a sense read, which is a very general thing that you do when you first get a script in your hand as you're about to begin to audition. And, he acted out the whole sense read, which is actually not what you're supposed to do. You're just supposed to read it for sense. And he actually did a whole performance. Now, the performance was quite good, but it was sort of an indication to me that here is a seasoned actor who's working in television and films and doesn't understand very simple instructions or doesn't know the difference between a sense read and a performance. And that was a real kind of hint to me that, look, there's room to get out here and start working with people and showing them what it is and what the craft of acting is. And that was something that we thought we could maybe do well. The hacks to good acting. Unfortunately, maybe it's my gray hair or the several decades I've been in the business. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not one of these people who does a DIY videos or looks up hacks. So I'll be very honest with you. There isn't one. Good acting takes time. And I think that the young generation today, I appreciate that you guys are faster and nimbler and more supple when it comes to everything technological, and I really applaud you for that. However, there are some things that we older people remember, and things that take time, just like bread rising in the oven or wine in the casks, or whiskey. I know whiskey is a big thing here in India. It takes time to make certain things right, and acting is one of them. You have to really slow down and not speed up. But the number one hack that I will give you is watch as many pieces of theater, watch as many films, web shows as you can. And the number one thing I would recommend to any young person endeavoring to become an actor is read literature. Right now, pick up a book, because you can really learn how to live the life of a character through a book. And I would recommend very highly that you take a look at English literature, but absolutely embrace all of the wonderful Indian literature out there. And ask yourself, when was the last time you picked up a Tagore book? When was the last time you read a poem by Gulzar? Really introduce yourself to your culture, because that's the root of it. And the people who are making cinema, making theater, making television, they're working from the very same root. And you should be acquainted with that. You should be immersed in that, and you should be lingual in that. All of them. One of the things that I think is really interesting about India today is that there's such a premium on the Hindi film industry or popular cinema, albeit in the Hindi industry and or in the regional industries. But I don't know if people have forgotten, but maybe they just aren't featuring as much as they could the traditional arts and the traditional crafts of Indian performing arts, albeit Indian classical dance, Indian classical music, Indian classical performances. But I mean, these are such rich, rich traditions that date back centuries, millennia, and the root of them is so beautiful, and they're so culturally tethered to this country as a whole, that I think that any classical art that any person in this country endeavors to learn is going to enrich their understanding, A, of performance, but also of their own culture. You know, and I, as a person living here, I absolutely love Hindi classical music, Hindi classical dance. I love this stuff. I go see it all the time. So what I would recommend to any young person who's thinking about getting into the acting field, I'd say two things. One is the classical arts of India are an essential part of your education. And the second thing I would tell you is learn Hindi. Learn Hindi. Learn it like you speak any other language. Or if you're going to work in a regional cinema, make sure that that regional language is something you speak as well as, say, English or anything else, because you have to be able to transact emotionally in the language that you're going to perform in, and you have to feel it. And we all know what it is to feel a language. And one of the things that I would say that many of the actors that come to me with, a stumbling block from time to time, is their Hindi or their Gujarati or their Tamil isn't up to the mark that it should be to be successful. And that's something that you, as a young person, should be addressing right now. Oh gosh, that's a terrible question, but a fair one. You don't. I mean, everybody has potential. I'm one of those people, and there are people who do what I do that disagree with me, and I welcome that, but I'm somebody who firmly believes that everybody can act. Because if acting is about truth and the truth of emotions, then everybody can be honest at least once. Now maybe you'll have just one role in you, or you'll have 100 roles in you, or you'll have a lakh's worth of roles in you. I don't know. That I can't decide for you. But I believe everybody can act. And I think that the number one thing that you have to do, and this circles back around to the question about a hack, you have to work hard. You have to work hard, and you have to train, and you have to be patient. Now, of course, there are people who have natural talent, but just because you might be someone with natural talent, that doesn't mean that just because you have that head start, you're going to be successful. And perhaps you're somebody without natural talent. Just because someone else has a head start doesn't mean that you won't catch up. So I would argue that number one equalizer in that question is work hard. I just yell at them. No, I don't yell. No, you know, I've actually, my expression would be just kind of look at them, something like this. That's about it, you know, and they'd get the point. And that's, yeah, that's how I would handle that.